GMC's leaders' description of quarantine centers as poor. National Assembly confirms Bakari's Hello viewers, this is Gttv News and I am your presenter Mary S. Jarju. In our top stories, President Adama Barrow declares a state of public emergency again for 21 days. The Ministry of Health refutes GMC's leaders' description of quarantine centers as poor. National Assembly confirms Bakari Sanyang as new ombudsman. Cabinet asks CRC to make presidential appearances at Assembly optional. News in detail. The President has again declared a state of public emergency by proclamation. This follows the lapse of the previous one, which was declared on the 26th March 2020 due to the COVID-19 pandemic, which was extended by the National Assembly for 45 days on 3rd April 2020. However, when the executive put forward another request for a further extension of 45 days, the National Assembly rejected it. In his statement, the President indicated that he lacked the cooperation of the National Assembly on a matter of national importance. His speech is as follows. Fellow Gambians, no one doubts the existence of the coronavirus pandemic and the destruction it is causing to life and economics around the world. You will recall that on the 3rd April 2020, in response to the declaration on the pandemic by the WHO, the National Assembly passed a resolution that extended for 45 days the state of public emergency, which I declared on 26 March 2020 in accordance with Section 34(1)(a) of the 1997 Constitution. At the time, only 2 COVID-19 cases were confirmed in the Gambia, whereas 171 other countries were reporting alarming levels of infections. As at the date of my declaration, according to the WHO, the virus had killed 20,834 people globally. Today, the number has increased to over 300,000. This makes it even more necessary for stricter measures to be taken. To respond squarely to the situation, my government adopted a number of measures through emergency regulations pursuant of the Emergency Powers Act. The objective for this line of action was to strengthen our efforts to break the chain of transmission of the virus in the country. Regulations were also laid down to ease the expected hardship that would arise from the measures and regulations. These included the Essential Commodities Emergency Powers Regulations, which seeks to protect the public from price hikes of essential commodities such as rice, sugar, flour, and cooking oil. To ensure adequate food supplies in the country, the export of essential commodities during the state of public emergency was banned. Other regulations included restrictions on public transportation, open markets, and closure of non-essential public places were part of the efforts to break the chain of transmission of the virus in our country. The government is very much aware that strict measures imposed during the state of public emergency would affect the lives of many in many ways. But handling COVID-19 is a matter of survival and saving lives first, and not about individual interest. As of today, 19 May 2020, The Gambia has 24 official confirmed cases of coronavirus infections and 1 reported death. Our immediate neighbor Senegal has 2,400 cases and 25 reported deaths. Globally, over 4.5 million people have been infected, with over 300,000 reported deaths. Based on their professional opinion, our health experts have predicted that if the right measures are not taken to successfully break the chain of transmission in our country, over 180,000 people will be infected in the Gambia. This will result in an estimated death toll of 9,000 people. Guided by these alarming figures and the fact that the state of public emergency extended by the National Assembly expired yesterday, 18 May 2020, my government requested the National Assembly on 16 May 2020 to extend their resolution by another 45 days. This objective for this is to maintain, if not redouble, our efforts to combat COVID-19, which includes to pose a clear danger to our small country. Unfortunately, on the day of government's request for an extension was tabled, the National Assembly resolution failed to carry the votes required to extend the state of public emergency. 23 members of the National Assembly voted in favor of an extension, while 25 members voted against it. Fellow Gambians, coronavirus knows no boundaries, and it has no respect for any person. It attacks, infects, and kills without regards to status, ethnicity, religion, political, or any other type of association. Without a state of public emergency, there will not be any emergency regulations. Without the emergency regulation, we cannot effectively fight this deadly virus that threatens our lives and livelihoods. This is the time we must all come together as a nation and put the interests of the country first and high above politics. This is about all of us as a people bound by a common destiny. It is a period to show our political maturity as a democratic society, capable of putting all narrow interests aside for national interests. Fellow Gambians, the 1997 Constitution has empowered the National Assembly and provided it with responsibility under these circumstances to support the government's effort to combat COVID-19 under Section 34(5) of the Constitution. With regret, however, our August Assembly has failed to act on its powers. As a result, my government and I owe it to the people of this country to protect them from this grave danger. It is my duty to act, and it amounts to a deadly abdication of responsibility that I failed to take the right action in the face of an obvious threat to the lives of our people. In this light, I have invoked the powers conferred in me by Section 34(6) of the 1997 Constitution to further declare by proclamation published in the Gazette, effective today, 19th May 2020, that a state of public emergency continues to exist in the whole of the Gambia. Since the National Assembly is no longer in session, the state of public emergency shall last for 21 days in accordance with Section 34(2) of the Constitution. Accordingly, I have also reissued the emergency regulations that were in force before the state of public emergency expired. These include the regulations declared on 26 March 2020 and extended by the National Assembly on 3 April 2020. These reissued emergency regulations shall also continue to be in force in line with the proclamation that I have made today. I call on the general public to appreciate that this is in the best interest of the whole nation, and I pray that the Almighty God continues to bless and strengthen us all as a united people. I thank you all for your kind attention. It concludes. The Ministry of Health refutes GMC's leader description of quarantine centers as poor. The Ministry of Health has on Tuesday, 19 May 2020, dismissed Mai Ahmad Fatih's description of COVID-19 isolation centers as poor condition. This counter statement came following a press briefing where Mai Fatih, leader of Gambia Moral Congress, gave an unpleasant portrait of the quarantine centers, saying they are in a poor condition. This claim echoes the information making rounds on social media about the condition of the quarantine centers, such as Badala Park Hotel. Meanwhile, it could be recalled that Mai Ahmad Fatih with his family were intercepted and placed under quarantine upon their return from Senegal. They served the testing period from 28 April to 13 May 2020. Talking to journalists, Mr. Fatih said his quarantine room was empty of facilities. When I was taken to my room where I was isolated, I find nothing there, he disclosed. However, the Ministry of Health painted a different picture of the isolation centers, regarding Mr. Fatih's information as misleading and unworthy of noting. The ministry described the isolation centers as standard, characterizing them to have almost all needed facilities of human comfort: air conditioner, refrigerator, TV, among others. In the quest of justifying its claim, the ministry said there is availability of personal protective equipment, such as face masks and gloves, for a sound, healthy delivery service. These are believed to be provided for all health personnel and patients under quarantine, treatment, and laboratory centers. The National Assembly has finally approved the appointment of Bakari Sanyang as the new ombudsman. Lawmakers last month referred Sanyang's appointment to the Assembly Public Appointment Committee for scrutiny. The Assembly also requested that Mr. Sanyang resign from his position as Governor of West Coast Region and submit his resignation to the committee with immediate effect. Addressing the National Assembly, some 14 people were arrested in Sukuta last evening after clashing with a demolition squad. Among those arrested were activist Fatou Jaumane and singer Mbikuru, both natives of Sukuta. A few weeks ago, when the tension emerged, a number of people staged a protest after receiving letters from the Department of Physical Planning asking them to halt all constructions on the land, as it is a state land reserved for schools, hospitals, markets, and cemetery. However, the villagers allege that they have not seen any such development, but instead, private people, mostly senior government officials, have put up houses on the land. The villagers, mainly from Jambakunda clan, claim the government of former President Jammeh took the said land from them in Salaji, but after a long battle, they reclaimed some of the tracts, which they divided among original landowners' clans, who allocated plots to family members, some of which have been developed. They said they were relieved that the matter was resolved, only to receive a visitation recently from the officials of the Department of Physical Planning, who distributed letters demanding they all stop development and vacate the land as it belongs to the state. The villagers apparently did not move, and yesterday, A demolition squad accompanied by police arrived at the scene and managed to push down a number of structures. This presence sparked a confrontation with the villagers, resulting in the arrest. As we went to press last night, the governor or the deputy governor of West Coast Region, Musa Suso, himself a native of Sokoto, said all those arrested have been granted bail. Another source confirmed that they have been charged with obstructing police officers, but the villagers reportedly rejected the charges and refused to give any statement at the Bruceby police station. Pope sends Kurite greetings to Gambian Muslims. The Pontifical Council for Interreligious Dialogue has, through the Christian Council in the Gambia, sent Ramadan greetings to all Gambian Muslims. The yearly message is sent to the Islamic community on the occasion of the month of Ramadan. The message was sent through the Catholic Bishop of Banjul and passed on to the chairman of Banjul Muslim Elders, Alhaji Aliu Mbo. The message reads, "For us, your Christian friends, it is a piteous time to further strengthen relationship with you. By greeting you on this occasion, and where possible, by sharing in iftar with you. Ramadan and Eid thus are special occasions to foster fraternity between Christians and Muslims. It is in this spirit that the Pontifical Council for Interreligious Dialogue offers its prayerful best wishes and heartily congratulations to you all. As we all know, the places of worship occupy an important place in Christianity and Islam, and in other spaces reserved for prayer, personal and communication alike. They are constructed and furnished in a way that favors silence, reflection, and meditation. They are spaces where one can go deep into him or herself, so favoring is at the house of prayer. In this regard, it is worthwhile to recall what Pope Francis said when he made a visit to the Haydar Aliyev Mosque in Baku on Sunday, 2nd October 2016. Meeting one another in fraternity, friendship in this place of prayer is a powerful sign, relations, and on the goodwill of those responsible. In the context of recent attacks on churches, mosques, and synagogues by wicked persons who seem to perceive the places of worship as a privileged target for their blind and senseless violence, it is worth noting that the document on human fraternity for peace, world peace, and living together, signed by Pope Francis and the Grand Imam of Al-Azhar, Dr. Ahmad Al-Taib in Abu Dhabi on 4th February 2019 said, "The protection of places of worship, synagogues, churches, and mosques is a duty guaranteed by religious, human values, laws, and international agreements. Every attempt to attack places of worship or threaten them by violent assaults, bombings, or destructions is a deviation from the teaching of religions as well as clear violation of international law." While appreciating the efforts done by the international community at different levels for the protection of the places of worship worldwide, it is our hope that our mutual esteem, respect, and cooperation will help strengthen the bonds of sincere friendship and enable our communities to safeguard the places of worship, to ensure for coming generations the fundamental freedom to profess one's own beliefs. With renewed esteem and fraternity greetings, in the name of the Pontifical Council for Interreligious Dialogue, we convey friendly wishes for a fruitful month of Ramadan and a joyful Eid. The message concludes. Mamadou Cisse, a US-based Gambian Muslim cleric, has strongly condemned the recent trials and convictions of imams from Brikama for leading Friday prayers. At least 3 imams were tried and convicted by the Brikama Magistrate Court for breaking COVID-19 prevention rules, which suspended all public gatherings to avoid spreading the virus. But according to Imam Cisse, a native of Jarju, the court should reverse its verdict and give back the convicts their fines with apologies. Imams are important people and playing a pivotal role in the country, and they fought for the current change and therefore should not be dishonored in this fashion. They should not be subjected to harassment as it was under the case of Yahya Jammeh, he said. Cisse, who is an imam at the Muslim Center at the state of Michigan, said taking 2,000 from imams as a fine will hurt their pocket since they are not earning anything from the humanitarian services they carry out daily for the community. In fact, the closure of mosques, Arabic schools, majalis and Quranic memorizing centers have all made imams poorer since these are the places they make their bread, he said. Imam Cisse noted that generally all the imams in the country respect the order to close mosques, so it is too harsh to convict these two. The police should have invited them instead of treating them like that, he concluded. Assembly yesterday, the Vice President, Aissatou Toure, welcomed lawmakers' productive engagement with the executive on matters of national interest. You can be assured of government's willingness to continue strengthening our newfound democracy. I want to assure you that Mr. Sanyang serves his position with due diligence, she said. The President's first pick for the Ombudsman, Babukar Sawane, was rejected by lawmakers. The Vice President, Dr. Aissatou Toure, returned to the National Assembly with a new name, Bakari Sanyang. Appointments to Armed Forces Council. Meanwhile, lawmakers voted to refer the appointment of Momodou Ndaunjai and Yusufa Babukar Diba in the Armed Forces Council to the Assembly Public Appointment Committee for scrutiny. The Gambia Armed Forces Council, which shall comprise the Vice President as chairperson, Minister of Defense, Chief of Defense Staff, and 2 other persons appointed by the President, subject to confirmation by the National Assembly. Tabling the motion for the consideration of the 2, Minister of Defense, Sheikh Omar Fai, said, there has never been a functional Armed Forces Council in the history of the Gambia. It is my ministry belief that the establishment of this council with this caliber of people will significantly assist in the oversight processes and democratic civilian control of the armed forces, he said. Retired Colonel Momodou Ndaunjai was one of the founders of the Gambian National Army in 1984 and became its first commander in the same year. He attended several military trainings in the Gambia, USA, UK, and France, and has served experience in military operations. He also served as Gambia's ambassador to France. While Yusufa Diba has MSc in International Agricultural Development from the University of California, MA degree in History and Political Science from the University of Botswana and Swaziland, as well as a BA in Sociology, Economic and History from Botswana. He is a retired civil servant who has served in various ministries and capacities, including the Ministry of Defense as permanent secretary and served as Gambia's ambassador to Cuba. President Barrow's cabinet has recommended that the Constitutional Review Commission replace a clause in the draft constitution which makes it mandatory for the president to appear before lawmakers each year. According to Section 87, the president shall at the commencement of each year, but in any case, not later than the end of April, attend and address the National Assembly. Section 89(5) also empowers the National Assembly, after an address of the Assembly by the President, hold a debate on the address, and for that purpose, the President may, or if he or she so designates, the Vice President shall attend and answer any matter or question relating to the President's address. However, in their observation to this in a paper seen by the Standard, Barrow's cabinet stated, "The government is of the view that a matter of national importance can be subjective and that the current draft provision which makes the President's attendance at the National Assembly mandatory can be subject to abuse based on partisan political considerations." Cabinet further said the President should have a discretion to either attend in person or through a representative, depending on the nature of the matter. This is all that we have for you today, and a recap of our top stories. The President Adama Barrow declares a state of public emergency again for 21 days. The Ministry of Health refutes GMC's leader's description of quarantine centers as poor. The National Assembly confirms Bakari Sanyang as new ombudsman. Thank you all for watching. This is what we have for you today.